spent in a miserable way.
U.S. News: Democratic anxieties over Medicare for all kick off first 2020 primary fight politics. At the center of the early debate is whether Medicare for all, a national, government-run system, should be a centerpiece of the party's platform. Beyond that, the ensuing disputes have frayed Democratic solidarity over health care, kicking off the first meaningful policy scrap of the 2020 primary contest. What had recently been Senior Bernie Sanders, the other 2020 contenders have offered more nuanced or muddled, depending on how you view it, takes on the issue. Though there remains Senior Kamala Harris, that asked during a Bloomberg interview whether there was room press to be more specific, she added there. Warren's assessment holds up as an accurate description of where most of the candidates, including Sanders, up to a point, and party people, come down on the issue. Warren, a more gradual approach, such as Medicare buy-in plan, is plainly favored by Ohio Senior Sherrod Brown. Then, across the Democrats' deeper ideological divide, resides a billionaire businessman, Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, and Howard Schultz, the former Starbucks CEO who would not run as a Democrat but has the party sweating over his potential as a spoiler. Both have rejected Schultz went a step further, rhetorically, first by calling any plan to wipe out public insurers not what. One reason why candidates are dancing around the future of private coverage. Because as much as some 70% with private insurance rated their health care coverage as excellent or good, according to a December Gallup poll. Still, private insurers still operate in Canada and many European countries with public health care systems. They typically offer. Some influential moderate Democrats are also trying to broaden what's thought of as Medicare for all to include more modest plans to expand coverage, such as adding a public option to the Affordable Care Act exchanges or allowing Americans to buy into Medicare or Medicaid. There's that moderate Democratic voices are arguing for more cautious measures, but still using the Medicare there. On Sunday morning, Pete Buttigieg, the young mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who entered the primary 10 days earlier, was asked by ABC News about Harris' answer at the CNN event. He affirmed his push to better explain his vision. Buttigieg offered a telling wait and see. Medicare.
Raindrops, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.